Yeah, just to share it.
Okay.
I'm not going to say anything, honestly. If you look fat,
you live now.
If you think you look fat,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
going to
Live now.
Okay. I take that back, guys. That would look perfect, bro.
Did you see your photo? The one I put. You look very big on the one you're sitting.
Yeah, I know, but it's not hench. It's something else. Like,
Yeah, you look
like,
very big.
I look like a monster, honestly.
I mean, I did it from here, but it looks like I've done it from here. You know, it looks very big.
Do you want to quickly go to that on your Facebook? Just go to or maybe actually.
You just tag me, I can accept it.
That'd be quicker.
Outside Lord Pizza, 32 Alamrak Road, telephone number
Send it to your messenger actually. You can
click it.
925. Wasim the Tapa.
Big density. Yeah. How
much
much
There you go. Just click on that in your messenger. Go to the latest post, which is us live, and then just share it to your Facebook.
Ready when you are. You can just start when you.
क्या आप परेशान ज़्यादा वालिदैन हैं या समझते हैं कि कोरोना जो आलमी वबा भी है ने आपकी बच्चे की पढ़ाई पर असर किया है तो परेशान मत हो क्योंकि राइजिंग स्टार एकेडमी अपने नाम की तरह पहचान भी रखता है वो वालिदैन जिनकी आमदनी कम है ये अच्छी तरीके से मदद भी कर सकता है राइजिंग स्टार एकेडमी में अपने बेहतरीन सहूलतों के साथ अलग क्लासों में पढ़ाई की कमी पूरी करने वाली लेसन्स दिए जाते हैं सिर्फ स्कूल के दौरान ही नहीं बल्कि छुट्टियों में भी एक्टिविटीज की जाती हैं घुड़सवारी, तीरंदाजी, बॉलिंग और भी बहुत कुछ सिखाया जाता है।
So put the CD2 one down and the mic's up.
Exactly. Whenever you're ready. Yeah. Whenever you're ready, just put this one down, put this two up and start. Whenever you're ready.
How long does this one go on?
You don't need to worry. The mains are gone anyway. Whenever you're ready.
Ready?
I'm ready, bro. Let's do it.
That's it.
Okay, good evening, listeners. So you are live you're live tuning into the ZoShow. It's 8 o'clock, Wednesday, the 28th, is it? 28th, isn't it? 28th of October, that's the one. I always get the date wrong, honestly. So welcome to the ZoShow. 27th, there you go. I've just been corrected twice in the space of a few minutes. I hope the rest of the show goes more smoothly than the start just then. So my name is Zahev Sadiq, and welcome to the ZoShow. You're live on Radio Aapki Awaz, and we are live streaming on Facebook. We're available on various apps, Radio Garden, the TuneIn app. We're live on the website. This is going out to many channels. So do stay with us. This is a community and well-being show. So we discuss various topics such as local issues in the Asian community, things that can help people in their daily lives. We may touch on things around the pandemic and what people have gone through. And actually, we are going to be discussing that with our guest tonight. And I'm so pleased to have with me somebody who I've known for the best part of 4 or 5 years, actually. And I actually met him on my first ever networking meeting. If people don't know what that is, business networking is where you make connections to create more business, referrals, make connections. So that was like over 4 years ago, and it's absolutely amazing that I've got him back today. And if there's one good thing about this show that I love is that we can reconnect with people. So last week I had someone for my first debut show, so thank you for people for tuning in to that. And it's great the fact that I can invite my guest on today who I've not seen in a while. And I'm really excited for this show, guys. So please do tune in. If anyone's got comments, we are live streaming on Facebook. The studio number as well, if people want to phone in and ask questions, is 0121 682 9735. But the formalities are out the way now, and I'm going to let my guest introduce themselves. So good evening, Muhammed Ahmed.
Good evening, though. Thank you very much for having me here. So I'm Muhammed Ahmed. I'm the founder and managing director of Pinnacle Finance and Pinnacle Wealth Creation. I'm a financial consultant by profession. I'm a business coach. I do forex trading as well. I'm an award-winning mentor and father of 2 amazing children. So that's me. Yeah.
Incredible, honestly, and are we all good? Yeah, there you go. We're just making sure the technical side is fine, so everyone can listen to us and hear us okay. So it's fantastic, Mohammed. I mean, as I said, we met on business networking. It was at a time where I was like, okay, I'll go along to networking, and I was like, okay, I'll I'll just see what it's about. And you know, I came along, we connected, and look where we are now, guys. You know, and it just goes to show, doesn't it, that when you make connections, you know, that those connections, they don't need to be short term. They don't need to be just people that you meet. The people that you connect with and you align with. And being a community and well-being show, that's exactly what we're trying to promote. So hopefully the nuggets and the information that we're going to be giving today, people can take it away and actually use it, and hopefully practically apply it. So we do have some hellos here, by the way. So I'm just going to read a couple of comments that we've had. We've had Pfizer Mustafa saying, hi Zo, hi Mohammed, thanks for tuning in. And Layla Lassi here saying, Salam everybody, walaikum salam. So that's fantastic to see people are listening to us and viewing us on the airwaves and the channels that we're on. So Mo, you just told everybody what you do, but what is it, if you had to sort of sum it up, what do you actually sort of specialise in?
So my specialty is financial consultant, and for me, I mean, I've been doing that for just over 19 years now for my sins.
Yeah. What does that mean? Just for people who aren't sure what a financial consultant is.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that role?
Okay.
Yeah.
So a financial consultant can comprise of various different factors. Our motto at Pinnacle Finance is about making dreams come true.
Yeah.
And the way we do that is we effectively facilitate all types of lending.
Yeah.
When it comes to any property purchase. So if someone is looking to buy a house, or you got a landlord looking to grow their portfolio, or someone who wants to do commercial finance, buy a commercial shop, bridging finance, buy land, build a house, development finance, all types of lending we basically do. And as a consultant, what that means is not only do we broker it and find them the very best deal based on their circumstances, but also we consult with them and give them other avenues to explore and utilize what they already have to make it something even bigger and better. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think, I said last week that everybody should need a summon, and I'm going to say this again, that everybody needs a Muhammed Ahmed, because I think, the role that you must play in people's lives, not just from a personal point of view, but business, life goals. People obviously want to kind of make investments. They want to grow in terms of their personal assets.
Yeah.
That is a huge role. Do you think people understand so, not a financial consultant, but do you think people understand the importance of what you can bring to their lives?
I think it's one of those sectors where it's often overlooked until you need it. So, for example, I mean, nearly everybody at some point in their life will buy a house. And unless you're in the property game or in the financial game, you're not really going to understand the ins and outs, the mechanics of it, and the overall process of the home buying process.
Yeah.
And it's only when people come to us that they realize, actually, you know what, this is exactly what I need.
Yeah.
Because I want to buy a house, I've got some money saved up, now what?
Yeah.
Who do I go to? What's the process? Who do I need to speak to? What do I need to consider? What is the demographics of it? What's the mechanics of it?
Yeah.
And a lot of these things are often, not understood properly.
Yeah.
And therefore, to answer your question, not particularly valued until they need it.
Yeah, and it's an important question, guys. And as I said, I wasn't trying to be condescending or rude to Mohammed in any way, because I often find people will say financial consultant and they'll have all these different sort of labels or names attached to them, and then people might think, oh, financial consultant, I'm not sure if I need that. How could I really benefit from that?
Yeah.
But if you look past the financial side of it, there's almost like there's personal happiness, there's stress, there's anxiety, there's all these different things that people go through when they're purchasing or investing in things. But it must be a massive help to have someone like that.
When you look at financial services, I mean, you've got to consider that includes your accountants, for example, your IFAs, so people who advise on pensions and stocks and investments. My background is predominantly mortgages and protection. So the common title that you would hear people in my situation use is I'm a mortgage advisor. So whilst I am that, I don't like to limit myself to a mortgage advisor, because we offer so much more than that. And for that reason, we call ourselves financial consultants, because we actually consult with you rather than just broker. And it's not just in mortgages, but different types of lending, whether it be bridging or development or commercial.
So many different layers there, and so many different aspects to what you do. We've got another comment here saying, "Good at Mandy." Mandy Harkheimer here saying good evening. So good evening to yourself. And guys, as I mentioned, comments, questions, if you have them, please do keep getting your comments in. As I said, we'll be happy to take some questions, and we can direct some of those to to Mo as well.
Yeah.
So in terms of your journey now, as I said, guys, me and Mo met in networking, business, making connections and stuff, but there is still the element of the fact that Mo has a business, and that business has flourished, I would say, and I'm confident enough to say that, because
you're too kind.
There is a fantastic story here, and the story that someone had last week was inspiring, and this is going to be equally or just as, if not more, inspiring. So, and I said, I'm not trying to build the pressure up here unfairly on Mo, because, they said, we love to hear stories. And, they said, by the way, if you're struggling to understand either what I'm saying or Mo's saying, because I do know that, maybe not everybody's first language is English on this station, we will try and sort of clarify or repeat things, or if people do, as I said, if you've got questions, do get them in, and hopefully, that will help. So Pinnacle Finance, I said, all things in terms of commercial finance, HMOs, mortgages, financial help. But tell us a little bit about kind of how you got into that field.
It's interesting you ask. I mean, I'll tell you the story behind it all. So on my 18th birthday, I went for an interview, a company called HFC Bank, which was later bought out by HSBC. And it was a group assessment day. So you had 13, 14 people in the room. You had to do a multiple of group exercises, selling an item, presentation, psychometric testing, as well as one-to-one interviews. So as I walked in, I thought, I've got absolutely no chance here. I'm the youngest one here. I've got no qualifications. I've got no experience. Everyone's got a degree or worked in banking of some sort of nature. And would you believe, out of the 13 of the 14 people that on that day that were interviewed, only one of them was actually offered the job, and that was me. Mm-hmm. So for me, that was a big wow factor. I'm like, oh wow, okay. So that's when it started out for me. I was in college at the time still, and I had a placement to go to university, but because I was enjoying my work life, I didn't go to university. I stopped at college. And I continued growing. I remember my third month in the company, I was employee of the month, and we're talking over 1,000 people here in this call center. And then over the years, going through the ranks, by 21, I became the youngest sales manager in the country, which was for me probably the biggest achievement I've had in my life, or one of the biggest achievements that I've had. From there, moved on, did a bit of other recruitment in between. Then I went to work for Dixon's Countrywide, which was rather at the time, one of the UK's largest property services group. Worked as a senior mortgage and protection advisor. I did that for about 4 or 5 years. Covered various branches across Birmingham. And then in 2014, I decided, right, I want to get out of it. It was taking a toll on me. It's a great industry. I love it. But it was affecting me on a number of levels. So I left the industry. But then, without bragging, when you're good at something, you can't get away from it. Mm-hmm. People still call you and say, hey, do you still do mortgages? Or my deal's coming to an end, I need to see you. So I was doing that. In between, I also did some commercial brokering for a boutique firm. I then went on, worked for Moore Stevens in London, which is a global top 10 accountancy firm. And that was doing R&D tax relief in London. But all the while, whilst I was doing this other job, I founded Pinnacle in 2015. And it was never meant to be anything more than just a side hustle. Mm. Started out in my bedroom. I thought I'll have a daytime job. And because I've got all these clients, I'll help them out here and there. And, a bit of extra cash wouldn't harm me. Mm. And then by 2016, at the turn of 2016, 2017, I had to make a very difficult choice. I was working in the city of London, a very high-paid job, all expenses paid for, credit card, all that sort of stuff. But my business was picking up, and it was requiring my full-time attention. Yeah. And I thought, right, well, either I quit my business and just work full-time and continue to be a slave to the system, or I follow my dreams, follow what I believe in, and make it work. And that's what I did. And I still remember the day I walked out. I handed in my notice. I didn't take my severance pack. I didn't take any holiday pay or anything like that. I didn't work my notice. Got on the tube on the way back to where I was living at the time. And I thought it was the best feeling in my life. And then obviously traveled a bit around the world, grew the company, restructured it a couple of times, and we'll probably come on to that a bit later on in a bit more. And here we are today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that a fantastic story, guys? Honestly, I mean, that is absolutely brilliant. I've known Mo for a number of years, and some of those things even I didn't know. So it's so refreshing, and you know, it's great to hear the kind of like, you know, the path you've taken,
Yeah.
and sort of what you're, you know, what you had in terms of like there's actually some deeper questions there which I will touch on regarding, as I said, like, you know, this is community and well-being, and we do want to touch on these subjects because it's really important that these messages are almost not just investigated or explored, but like, you know, that we're learning some lessons here tonight. That's really what I want to get across. So the first question I've got for you, Mo, and as I said, guys, if you've got questions yourselves, please do get them in. We had a comment from Zaf Khan, one of my good friends, saying, "Slam, guys, get involved with Pinnacle Finance. Mo and crew will look after you." Fantastic.
Thank you, Zafran. I'll pay you later.
That's great. Honestly, there you go, Zaf. He'll sort you out there for that comment. But wonderful to see that people are acknowledging Mo's business, and obviously it's great to see that, you know, people understand what he's achieved and what he's continuing to achieve. So the first question I mentioned that I had was, you said that you felt like it was affecting you mentally. You know, like it was affecting your confidence. The fact that you were in this routine, you were stuck in the job, you had Pinnacle Finance, and it was just a side hustle. When you say it was affecting you, can you just want to? I don't want to sort of like dive too deep, guys. You know, I'm not trying to bring Mo to tears or anything, but at the same time, just explain the sort of like that feeling or that period.
Yeah, I think with anybody who's self-employed now, or any entrepreneur, or anybody even thinking about going self-employed, and this applies to anybody in the community, in any sector, the number one fear factor you have, especially when you've worked 15 plus years in the corporate world, and you want to set up your own business, it's the fear factor. Is it going to work? Am I going to succeed? You know, what if I leave my well-paid salary and tomorrow my business flops? And I'm out of a job, I've got out of an income, I've got bills to pay, I've got family to feed, and you know that fear factor is such a scary feeling that you know a lot of people go through. And for me, and that's why it was always supposed to be just a side hustle. But then when it came to that, as the business was picking up and it was getting more and more busier, I realised, well, hang on a minute, I've got to make a decision here. I cannot physically be doing 2 full-time jobs, because that's what it was requiring of me. My time, I was being pulled between both, and I knew what I wanted, and I knew what I enjoyed, and it came down to a number of factors, and like any entrepreneur, like yourself even, you know, you think about why you're going to self-employed. You want that flexibility. You know, you want to be your own boss. You don't want to have to worry about, when you come from a corporate world, you know, you're used to reporting on a daily, weekly basis, you know, 50 million Excel spreadsheets and, you know, KPIs and all that sort of rubbish. And you think, you don't want to do that anymore. And one of the biggest factors for me, which I incorporated in our culture at Pinnacle, is that we didn't want to bring in the corporate mindset. You know, in the corporate world, in banking, every client is just another number on a spreadsheet. You know, the shareholders, the big bosses, the fat cats at the top, they don't care about Mr. Khan or Mr. Hussain or Mr. Singh. You know, all they care about is how much profit is being made. So you're left to, you know, you're put under a lot of immense pressure to hit the targets, but the service isn't being delivered. And having been on that side of the table as a customer, buying a house or refinancing of some sort, you know, I know that that's not how I would want to be treated. So now at Pinnacle, what we tend to do, you know, our motto is that we'd rather work less, in the sense of fewer number of cases for a higher value, but as a result of that, then the service level is then massively increased. People get that one-to-one attention. You know, how many brokers or banks can you call at 9 o'clock on a Sunday evening and speak to the advisor to get some advice? You know, you're not going to find that anywhere. And that's what we like to do. We like to go that extra mile, up and on beyond the norm, and make it really unique and personal.
So it it seems to me like you've been through that kind of like the corporate world. You worked in that lifestyle. You decided that, okay, look, this wasn't something that I want to pursue, which is absolutely fine. And the one thing I'll say to people is tonight that me or Mo, we're not here to endorse employment, self-employment.
No.
We're not here to choose what which one's better or anything. But at the same time, Mo decided that from a personal point of view, it wasn't for him, and he's now he's prospering. He made the decision to do that, and now he's doing he's doing very, very well, if I can say that.
Can I just echo just the point that you made there, and it's a very important point. We're not, as you quite rightly said, we're not endorsing whether employment or self-employment is better or not. I thank every day, and I think the Almighty for what I learnt during my time in the corporate world, because hadn't I learnt what I did, I couldn't bring the good into what I'm offering to my clients today. So there were certain aspects that I did not like. One that I mentioned, treating customers like a number, but there was also a lot of good things that you learn. These are massive organizations, worldwide corporations, blue chip companies who have tried and tested methods that work. And if you bring that into your SME business, it's a recipe for success. But what you want to do is you take away all the corporate rubbish and focus on the good stuff. So I thank and I'm thankful for my experiences in the corporate world, but now it's time to do it on your own.
Yeah. One question that I will ask, and I love asking this people to self-employed people, is: do you still get up early every day?
Oh God, no.
I love the honesty. It's fantastic.
If you speak to my wife, she will tell you that when I was employed before, you had to be at work. Your morning meeting started at 8:45. And I'm not a morning person. My wife would tell you I would quite happily work till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and not wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I think that the reason being, when my first job at HFC, the call centre, we used to start work at 12:30 and finish 9 in the evening. So our day started late, finished late. And I've always had that kind of mindset. So when I was working in the corporate world, it was a right struggle. I was not, in the morning getting there, more often than not, I was late. And my branch manager would phone my regional manager and say, why is Mo always turning up late for? And my manager would say to me, he'd call me on my mobile separately and say, come on, Mo, get yourself in. I mean, really and truly, he didn't care. As long as the results were there and the bottom line figures were there, he couldn't give a monkeys. But, it was part of the team and playing the game. But no, I can't do mornings. If someone asks me, and I guess one of the most common questions that self-employed people get asked, would you go back into an employed role? And I think, without putting a real price on it, but someone would have to pay me at least a 6-figure salary for me to even consider it, let alone do it.
Yeah.
And that's not because of the money element of it. It's just the flexibility that you get when you're self-employed. And there's been a lot that my family, my mom, my children have gone through in recent years, and I couldn't have done any of that if I was working for somebody. You can't just book time off or take a 2-hour break, lunch, or come in late or go home early. You can't do that in a corporate world. You come in late more than 3 times, you're at the door.
Isn't it interesting what the word well-being means to different people? On one hand, you've got well-being in the sense that, like, I'll have a routine and look after myself, and I'll be very organised in my approach. And then on the other hand, there's different interpretations of it, really. There's not two, but what we're getting at here is that, like, to Mo here, well-being is almost like being happy from yourself. He's changed his mindset. You've really, really kind of like now developed something that works for you. You love it. There's passion oozing through kind of what you're saying here, and it's just fantastic to see that. And the main thing is being happy, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it shows.
I mean, like anything, and like in any business, for any entrepreneur, you have challenges, and you have setbacks, you have knockbacks, but that's part of being an entrepreneur. You get back up, you get back on your feet, and you keep on going. They say statistically, nearly 90% of self-employed people fail in the first 12 months. And the main reason for that is because they give up too easily. Because they're so used to a certain routine, and having that guidance and having that structure in place. When you go self-employed, you no longer have anyone breathing down your neck, which at first you think is a great thing, but later on you soon realize actually I don't mind having someone not breathing down my neck, but checking up on me, saying, are you on track for what you should be doing? You set yourself goals and targets. Are you on track for that? Whereas, when you're working with somebody, you have your weekly, monthly reviews and one-to-ones, and you can check and measure, right, am I doing what I should be doing? When you're self-employed, you don't. And that's why I always recommend, I do it myself now, I mentor businesses and students from Birmingham City University, but I too have my own mentor as well, who I'll probably see maybe 2-3 times a year. We'll go for a coffee, get some food and catch up. And although it's not like a beating as such, but it's someone to kick me at the backside and say, right, are you on track?
Yeah.
Well, you said you want to be there in 2 years' time or 5 years' time. You're not there yet. Why not?
Yeah.
It's having someone holding you accountable.
Yeah. Somebody who's going to be pushing you, making sure that you're not going to, making sure that there's not that complacency doesn't kick in, and
Exactly.
that you're gonna keep heading towards that goal. Now, we spoke about the struggles of that occurred when you were employed. Which obviously you overcome, or you're still learning every day. Every day is always a school day, as people say.
Yeah.
And then you made this decision, which is, people think this is really easy when you go from being employed to self-employed, and people think like, oh, I can get a play, I can do what I want to do, I've got no boss or anybody telling me what to do.
Yeah.
But how just talk to actually before we get to how you did that, just explain sort of like, this is a very important question, guys, and particularly for, we're gonna touch on two things here. We're gonna touch on what you went through when you were making that decision, and also as an Asian person as well, because as I said, like, I always find in the Asian community there's not enough people who are pursuing their dreams or goals due to things like fear, family pressures, maybe the environment doesn't allow them to do that, or maybe they just they want to stay in their comfort zone. But what was it when you made that decision? What was going through your head?
I think for me, even long before I actually did make that decision, many, many years before that, I had people, friends, and even clients, especially clients actually, say to me, why don't you go independent? Why don't you open up your own place? And at the time, when you're young, in your 20s, and you're getting a decent salary, you got a good commission structure, you got your company phone, laptop, car, etc., you're thinking, what do I need? I've got it all. And you don't really think about the stuff that really matters in life. Your family and flexibility, and and being able to do all of that. But to answer your question, what was going through my mind when I did make that plunge? Truthfully, I was scared. No, and I think anybody would be scared. You think, is it going to work? I think what set me apart, what kept me going, is I had that belief. I was doing it for a number of years. I passionately, with a burning desire, I passionately believed not only in what I was going to be offering, but I believed in myself. One thing that you always learn in sales, it isn't about the company you work for. I could be working for HSBC, Moore Stevens, Countrywide, or any large financial institution for that matter, but people buy from people.
Yeah.
It's about building that relationship. You mentioned earlier about what is networking and the importance of it, and the key thing is it's about building and leveraging relationships. And if you can do that, especially with your clients, then you don't need to really worry about anything, because your business, your leads are already there. And alhamdulillah, we've been very lucky. I've been very lucky over the years. I would quite comfortably say over 90% of my business has come from repeat clients, recommendations, and word of mouth. We still don't have a website. We do a bit of dabbling on social media platforms. That's just more for brand awareness more than anything. But the bulk of our business is from recommendations. And that's the best business you can get, because not only is it free, which is great, but it's also, because you've been recommended, people are already half sold by the person recommending.
Yeah, there's a trust element there.
There's a trust element there, precisely. So I think going back to your question, what was going through my mind, I was scared, I I was nervous, I was anxious, is it going to work? But ultimately, I believed in myself. And that's the advice that I would give to anybody who's considering pursuing their own dreams and passion. I'd be like, you have to believe in yourself. You know, life's too short. You know, you don't know until you try. Okay? And ask yourself, what's the worst that can really happen? You know, let's take good old Donald Trump, for argument's sake. You know, this guy's a multi-billionaire. How many times did he go bankrupt from a billionaire to zero and then build it back all over again? You know, people can do that, but it's all about having that confidence and belief in yourself. And that's where people lack. I see so many entrepreneurs, so many people who are, you know, in the employed world, working in the corporate world, who have been thinking about the idea about going self-employed, but they never take that step. And I know, I can see they've got the capacity, they've got the ability, they've got the skill set, they've got the knowledge. I'm like, well, why aren't you doing it? And I think a lot of people would say that, well, I want to make sure it's all built up before I give up on this. If I can go back and rewind my time, what would I change? I would say I would have done it a lot sooner. I would have taken that plunge a lot sooner, taken that risk, because what I'm doing now is no different to what I was doing back then. Yes, we're learning every day. You know, every day's a school day, as you quite rightly say. But if I had done it a long time ago, you know, things would have been a lot different. But alhamdulillah for what we have and for where we are still.
Yeah, but it was sort of saying, isn't it? Experience builds character,
Yeah.
you know. And I said, like, you've obviously, as I said, you've worked at it for a number of years. You know your trade. You're confident in yourself. That belief is showing through all the time.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's not a case of saying like, okay, well, all right, I've done this and that's it. It's like you're continuing. You want to learn.
Yeah.
And you want to keep pushing yourself, and you've
Yeah.
got those mentors, and you've got those people, and you've got that network. And just speaking about networks here, you know, there's people who are commenting on this show today who share the same networks as me and Mo here, because we met through networking a number of years ago. So Zaf Khan again, a good friend of mine, FSB advisor, saying, love your hand gestures, Zo. Oh, thank you very much, Zaf. I don't know, which hand gestures do you like? I was going to say, in particular, I was going to say, so I was going to say there's but little fun fact, actually, I'll say. With my public speaking background, there's 14 different kinds of hand gestures. So for the audience, bit of a random fact. I know if that is important to anybody, but Zaf, tell me which one you like, and I'll see if I can do it a little bit more. Pfizer here saying nowadays workplaces are really flexible. Speaking from her own situation, you can start anytime. Take breaks in between and work from your bed. That's an interesting one. And I think we've seen how workplaces and the working world has adapted, especially in the last sort of 18 to 20 months. So that's a very relevant comment. Yeah, sure.
On Faiza's comment there, and she's absolutely right. I think I was very fortunate when I was setting up my company. At the time, I wasn't in the same company I was working for, wasn't in financial services. So luckily there was no conflict of interest. But what it allowed me to do, when clients were calling me, you know, I'm like taking the call at my desk or break time or lunchtime. I'm like, look, I'll call you back later.
Yeah.
And I think this is where people who want to pursue their dreams, you know, you're not going to wake up one day and suddenly you've got your business and it's all established, you're recognizing the community and you're making a ton of money. That doesn't work. You got to put the graft in. I remember when I was starting this out 5-6 years ago, the company I was working for at the time, it was non-related to financial services. My job would start at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'm at the door by 7:30, in work for 8 o'clock, finish at 5 o'clock. Between 5 and 7, I'll go to a coffee shop and see my clients for appointments. Come home by 7:30, 8 o'clock, have my dinner, spend some time with my wife and my daughter at the time. My son wasn't born then. At 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, I'll then go to my sister's house around the corner. I had an office set up in her spare room. And I'd work there from 10 till about 2 in the morning. And then go back to home, back to sleep, and up again at 6 o'clock. So 4 hours sleep, 5 days a week. The point being is that if you want to make this work, if you truly believe in your product or your service, you got to graft. No matter what it is, the bottom line is, if you can have all the right attitude in the world, the right intentions, all the knowledge and all the experience and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, it's about grafting. You got to put the hard work in. And, you know, I speak to a lot of brokers who I mentor as well. And they, you know, and they look at me and they're like, and two things they say to me. One is like, how come, you know, you don't really go out there anymore? Well, look, I'm not bragging, but when I was setting this up, I was going to, which is where we met, I was going to probably 5 or 6 events every week. 20 events a month. And that's a lot of time. During work hours, morning hours, after work hours, and you sacrifice time with your family and your children. You have to make that sacrifice. But because I did that, I built up a certain relationship with key stakeholders in the community. So I no longer need to. Alhamdulillah, now if I just go to 2 or 3 events a month, it's more than adequate for me. And this isn't me blowing my own trumpet or anything, but once you become established enough, you no longer need to, because you're already known out there now. I remember this one event. It was actually a chutney event, a couple of years ago, and there was a lady walking around, and she was looking for a mortgage advisor, and there was 3 other mortgage advisors in that room outside of me. And would you believe, if she asked 3 separate people, is there a mortgage advisor in this room? And all 3 people pointed their fingers to me, when there were at least 3 other brokers in that room. And to me, that was like, I felt chuffed, obviously. I had a big head. I was like, oh, okay, these are really nice. But the point being is that because I put the graft in, because I was going so often, I wasn't getting business from every event I was going to. But because you're building those relationships, you're building that trust with people, when someone comes to them, you're the first person they're going to think of. Because they're like, oh, mortgage, fine. Oh, yeah, obviously, go to well. Go to Pinnacle Finance. It's just an obvious thing nowadays. If people talk about, insurance, I'm not going to mention names live on air, but people will, we have mutual connections, and they'll say, go and speak to such and such. People talk about, social media platforms and website building and blah, blah, blah. People say, go and speak to him or her. All people that we know, we have mutual connections, but I'm not going to mention it in case I'm not supposed to. But but the point is, but they've not achieved that overnight.
Yeah, and this is where brand building and kind of almost like working at what you do, investing the time, investing the energy, which you've obviously explained there. I mean, it's. I'm not sure how you had time to sleep, really, or if you did. I mean,
I couldn't do it now. I couldn't do it now. I think. I say to my wife all the time, I say, the energy that I had 10 years ago, don't have that anymore. You get older and, your responsibilities grow. Kids are growing up now. I've got a 12-year-old, I've got a 6-year-old, school runs, they start, hospital appointments, they start, and shopping and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You're trying to manage family life and school life and kids, as well as your business. And then you got your, you feel that accountability towards your clients, your mentees that you mentor, other business that you're doing with. It's not easy.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it now. I try and take a bit more of a step back and take more of an operational view over the company, as opposed to getting my hands into nitty-gritty now.
But you put the initial time in, and obviously, as I said, it's working. You mentioned energy, that that you don't have the energy now, or you may not have the energy now, but Zaf Khan saying, love the energy from Mo. So there you go. That's absolutely fantastic.
Energy, the mental energy is there. Don't get me wrong. It's more the physical energy. I mean, before I could work, as you said, 20 hours in a day and have 4 hours sleep. I'll do that 5 days straight, no issues at all. That physical energy I no longer have. However, mental energy and physical and the passion and desire, that is still very much there. I was, one of my consultants the other day, I was in the office, and a client rang me on the mobile, and she goes, I've been gazumped, which basically means someone made a higher offer, a higher bid, and they've lost out on the property. And I was, in the office, effing and minding, fuming. And she goes to me, what are you so upset for? It's not even your house. I said, yeah, I know, but, I treat every single case as though it's my own family, my own friend. And she goes, you know what, I love that passion. So then, I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah. But it's fascinating, isn't it? The fact that, and I said, I've had discussions like this before, and with people, but it's what's amazing is when people say things like, this is my side hustle, and I do this on the side to an employed job, and I was, and I do my networking in the evenings, or I take client calls at lunchtime, evenings, I'm working till this time, that time, and it's like, that is the mental resilience and the we mentioned energy, which is what we spoke about last week as well with our guest, but how it applies this week is in a similar vein, but then it's like you've really. I can see that you really have worked on it, and there is a reason why you set yourself apart in that meeting. You've built a bit of a personal brand there. Everybody knows now Muhammed Ahmed, Pinnacle. Like, again, I met Mo 4 years ago, and honestly, like, it's like sometimes you remember the person and not the business, which is a testament to yourself, really. And as I said, I don't know much about that field, but when someone says Pinnacle Finance, I'm like, yeah, Muhammad Ahmed straight away.
Yeah.
Or if I've seen Mo at an event or something, and you've spoken at events, or you've used to do social media videos and stuff like that. And again, that is all part of the personal brand, which people don't realize. And I think it's fantastic that you haven't just said, well, I'm going to open a business and I'm going to do this and that's it. You've done other things on top of that to make sure that people are almost familiar with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, two things there. I mean, when I first started out, I mentioned earlier on, people buy from people. Mm-hmm. So it was me who they recognized, or me that they knew, or they were recommended. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to grow my company, I don't want them to know just me. I want them to know the brand. Mm-hmm. So then I started focusing on doing exactly that. The social media, Facebook live videos on a regular basis. Pre-pandemic, I was doing probably 2-3 a week, maybe. Mm-hmm. Sitting in the car on the way to the office. Yeah, I remember that. Yes, got told off so many times for that. But anyway, and then I remember going to an event, and again, I might have mentioned a name, but there's one woman, again, a mutual connection. She goes, "Oh, hi, it's Mr. Pinnacle." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. So now it wasn't no longer, "Oh, it's Mo or Muhammad." It's Pinnacle now. So the brand is now Pinnacle. So it's balancing out that. You need to understand that it's people buy from the brand and buy from you. It's equal that as well. Yeah. So that is that is crucial. Yeah. And I remember that because in the pandemic, when I started my podcast, for people, before this podcast was on Facebook before, now it's come to Radio Aki of ours. By the way, guys, again, if you've got questions, please do comment. Don't be shy. We're not gonna embarrass anybody or anything like that. We have had more comments come in, and if you don't want to leave it on social media, if you're not even watching on social media, if you're listening in via the airwaves, via the apps, the studio number is 0121 682 9735. So if you would like to ask a question, there is always the option of phoning in as well. But I remember those videos just to come back to this point here. And I think during that time, during the pandemic, people were starting podcasts, they were starting live vlogs, they were starting not starting. They were just doing more of. They were doing more of it. They were almost embracing the digital kind of channels, digital world a lot more. I remember just sitting there sometimes, seeing you in your car, and it was like you were driving somewhere, whether it was a client, whether it was to family, whether it was just anywhere. Yeah. And I used to just sit there and. When people say oh, social media, why would I want to know what somebody's eating or doing or where they're going? And it's but in that moment, there was nothing else to do. Yeah. And so I suppose really the only way you felt connected to people was through those social media channels, and it was great because you probably just spoke about. I mean, you tell us what sort of things did you came to mind when you were doing the videos? I mean, honestly, most videos when people do a live video, I think more often than not people would predetermine what they're going to say. Yeah. And they have topics. Mine were very, I hate to use the word, I don't like it, but I would wing it. I'd jump in the car and I'd hit the live button and be like, right, what do I talk about? And right, let's talk about the weather, let's talk about going on holiday, let's talk about what's going on in current affairs, what did the government announce today, what's happening in the markets, because it's not just mortgages that I do. So, as I mentioned earlier, as well as business coaching and mentoring, I'm also a day trader as well. So when it comes to looking at the oil markets, cryptocurrencies and other commodities and stocks, etc. And I'm always fascinated with what's going on. And today the Chancellor Rishi Sunak announced the budget. Yeah. We've seen that inflation is sky high. It's going to continue to go high next year. But pay rise is not probably in line, but it's getting there. Employment is stable, maybe a little bit higher, but lower than what we expect here. Mm-hmm. But it's things like this that really matter, and I think it's fascinating when you speak to people and how you can relate to them with current affairs going on. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, especially when you're not in the industry, it's jargon to most people. But they don't realize how much it actually affects their day-to-day lives, which is quite amazing actually.
Yeah, and it is amazing because, as I said, like we can learn so much just from reaching out to people, just from listening, and ultimately, as I said, there's always some advice that we can take from anything that we're sharing.
And just on what you were saying earlier on, this and firstly, again, thank you for having me on board.
No. We're not done yet, by the way. You're not done yet. You're only saying that.
I think this is a great platform, and this is all about community. And I've been to various types of networking events and been involved in various different things. And a lot of them have been involved in the corporate world.
Yeah.
But what gives me the most satisfaction is when you're helping community. Part of what I do now as a mentor is about giving back. You learn so much over the years, but you're not going to take that knowledge with you to the grave. And if you do, what good is that to anybody else? It's about passing it on. It's about sharing it, and there's enough out there, enough of a pie for everyone to have a bite of. I don't have that mindset where people think, well, I'm not going to share my tricks or my intellectual property or my knowledge and whatever. I want to keep it all to myself. You can't.
Oh, that's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is a shame. No, out there. I'm just like, it's crazy. But you've got to share with people and and give back to the community. So this is a great platform. So I encourage your listeners and your viewers that if there are any questions they have relating to finance, especially mortgage and lending, get in touch, call the studio, and remember, guys, it's only a stupid question if you know the answer.
Yeah, there you go. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You just did my job for me. Honestly, we should switch seats. Honestly, we really should. But it's funny you mentioned mentoring, and the comment that we've had now. My phone is angled. I don't know if Mo can see my phone from this angle. I don't think he can. But the comment that he just made is actually in line with one that we've just had. But I'll just go back a few comments. So we've had one here saying it's admirable becoming self-employed. So again, people are acknowledging your journey there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Word of mouth and networking is really powerful. Yes, and it absolutely is, because that's how me and Mo connected, and a lot of my connections over the last few years have come, and again, and with Mo as well, have come through networking. And I said it is, networking doesn't have to be this sort of like, oh, you have to go there and sell. It's not like that at all. But as I said, networking could come in many forms. It's not just networking events like Chutney and Chat, like the ones that we've just mentioned here. There are so many ways to network.
With networking, right? I'm going to add one comment.
Yeah, sure.
People often think that, especially when they're new to networking, they have this mindset, I'm going to go there, I'm going to take my business card, I'm going to sell who I am and what I do and blah, blah, blah. And admittedly, I did that myself. When I first started going to networking events, 15 plus years ago, that's all I used to do. Nowadays, my mindset, and I tell anyone that I mentor, when you go to an event, your only objective is to walk away having established one solid relationship, one good connection. Doesn't mean you're going to get business from them today or tomorrow, but if you're going to walk away and you've established one solid relationship with someone in that room, you've achieved something. And that's what's made it all worth it.
Yeah. Go, but I mean, look, that's I couldn't top that. I mean, that is, if that isn't good advice, I don't know what is, because again, you can overthink certain things, but that's the experience that Mo is giving there after years of obviously being in business and making connections. So there you go, one connection, guys. You go to an event, if you're networking, that's all you need. We had a comment here from Muhammed Ahmed, and this may be one of the only times really that I speak either Urdu or Punjabi on this show. But he's saying, Assalamu alaikum, bhai sahab, Zabardast program, Assalamu alaikum to guest, and Assalamu alaikum to all listeners. So, walaikum salam. So, thank you, Mo. I can just say, there was a comment that we had earlier on in the show from Leila Lassi, and I missed this comment, but she's saying she's listening from Karachi in Pakistan.
Wow.
That is incredible, honestly. So, this does get a wide reach, you know what I mean? So,
you got somebody from USA also.
And we got somebody from USA. I've just been told by my studio manager here. So that is amazing. Honestly, we are worldwide. So this is the question that came up as Mo was talking about mentoring, giving back. As I said, community, well-being. There's a lot of positive messages in this show today. So the golden question I've had tonight is this: as a mentor, what is the best advice you can give?
Okay, in what context? Are we talking about someone who's wanting to go self-employed, someone who is self-employed currently? Or?
I think if we take it as it was Pfizer who asked the question. So Pfizer, if you want to just follow up and just be a little bit more specific on that.
This one said. I mean, generally speaking, as a mentor, the number one advice, that I would say I would give to anybody would have to be passion. Passion, and everyone who's an entrepreneur no doubt has read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the key things that you learn early on in the book is having a burning desire. Okay, you can have all the knowledge in the world, you can have all the right product, you can have the right service, you can have the right work ethics, you can have it all, the funding, and everything to the T set up. But ultimately, if you don't have the right attitude, it ain't gonna work. And by attitude, what I mean is having a positive mental attitude. It's so easy. It's easier said than done now, sitting here. But obviously, I can say from experience, fear, doubt, anxiousness, all that sort of feeling is gonna be there. But if your passion is so strong, it will outweigh all of those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have that passion, that you really believe in what you're doing. If someone came to me and said, right, sell me this product or this service, and I'll give you £10,000 for doing so. If I don't believe in it, I ain't selling it. Bottom line. I have to believe in something with my heart, my soul, that this is the right thing, not just for me, but more importantly, for my client. Mm. Is this right by my client? Is the service and the product that I'm offering right by my client? People often ask, and I'll share this quite openly. I've not done this in this kind of capacity on radio where you've got 50k plus listeners. People often critique, you could say, or make comments that our fee structure is on the higher side. And yes, it is. And I never shy away from that. I've never been one to shy away from what we charge in our fee structure. And the reason why is because I believe in what I offer you. Okay? You hear the saying that you're not paying for me to do something that takes half an hour.
Mm.
You're paying me because I've got 19 years, in my case, of doing it. So you're making sure that I'm going to do it for you, that it doesn't mess up. It doesn't come back and bite you in the arse. Excuse me.
Okay, it's all right. Okay. We'll forgive him for that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And you're making sure you're getting it right. It's not just about, from my point of view, that I want less work and more money. No, that's obviously a caveat to it. But my question to any entrepreneur is, if you have the opportunity, let's give you an example. By profession, you do marketing, social media, graphic designing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if I came to you and I said, Zo, I've got 100 clients for you, and for each of them, you're going to do a new logo, and they're all going to pay you £100, just for argument's sake. Now, on the face of it, that seemed pretty cool. However, if I came to you and I said, right, so I've got 10 clients for you, and they all want the same service, but they're all prepared to pay you £1,000. Which one are you going to go for?
Yeah, well, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's having that belief. You have to believe in why someone is prepared to pay you that much more. Okay? In our industry, there's plenty of brokers out there, financial consultants, who charge considerably less than what we charge. Some even don't charge anything at all. And they say, well, he's charging me £400 or £500 or nothing. I'm like, well, that's fine, you can do that. But what I'm offering you here, the service that we're offering you, the add-ons that you're going to get, is going to outweigh that. And bottom line is, it's a cliche, we all hear it, you get what you paid for. That's it. The bottom line is, you will get what you paid for. Yeah. You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Now, if you want the top service or something, you're going to pay for it. It's like when you go and buy I'm not trying to go down a sales route here, but you go and buy a phone or a car. If you have the capacity, are you really going to go and buy a Datsun, for example, or a lower end brand? Or if you have the capacity and the ability, are you not going to want to go and buy maybe a German, for example? It makes more sense. So why is this any different? You go and see a solicitor about a legal matter, you're going to make sure that you can see the best solicitor you can within your financial means. You're not going to go to the cheapest one out there, are you? Of course you're not.
Yeah, yeah.
So, again, it all boils down to passion and belief about if you believe in your service and your product, charge whatever you want. And if people believe you and they buy into you, they will pay you.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. And I said it keeps you going, doesn't it? And I think so Faiza she did follow up to that, and what she said was the best advice you can give to be successful. But I think we've kind of covered off most of the points there. But is there anything that you want to sort of add to that in terms of success?
I think the best advice about successful, including what we've already mentioned as well, is don't give up. There's been so many setbacks and knockbacks that I've personally, experienced over the years, and I'm sure any businessman or entrepreneur has. But where you set yourself differently is by not giving up. Get up, get back on your feet, and keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. Never give up.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. And I said that it sounds easy. It sounds easier said than done, just to say get up and be resilient, keep going. But you've proved it. As I said, we've got somebody here in the studio who has done it, and he's still doing it. And I know your journey in the sense that this was a side hustle. You're now doing this like independently. This is your thing now. And I think is it last year you expanded, you moved to bigger offices as well?
Well, it was actually 2 years ago.
2 years ago,
we restructured. We took on more consultants, and we're growing, and alhamdulillah, it's steady now. But obviously, my role now is, I'm trying to take more of a step back, take more of an operational view on it, oversee the operation as opposed to get involved on a day-to-day basis. Unfortunately, clients are calling me still on the mobile, so I'm still seeing clients, but handing cases over to my colleagues and staff to then handle. What I'm trying to focus my energy on is other projects. Quite a few interesting projects which I can't discuss on air because we've got NDAs in place.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
One thing that I'm really passionate about is about giving back, and the whole mentoring thing. And like I said, again, without blowing my own trumpet, earlier in the year I was recognised and awarded Best Mentor of the Year by Birmingham City University.
Fantastic!
Yeah.
There you go, brilliant. Honestly,
And
there you go. Well deserved.
Currently, we are finalists in the Birmingham Awards for Best Company of the Year 2021, which was a complete shock to me. I didn't even know that we were nominated, let alone shortlisted and then got into the finals. So to achieve what we have in such a short time, I'm very proud of me, my partners, and all my colleagues who are involved in the organisation. It's
just so inspiring, guys, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do here, guys. Is just inspire people, and I said Mo's story is resonating with people clearly, because we've got some fantastic comments here. Habib Fayaz saying good evening, guys, and then he also said great advice. So there you go. And I said people are definitely appreciating what you're saying here. Faiza, who asked the question about kind of that road mapping and to be successful regarding mentoring, 100%, never give up. That's just great. And then we had another comment here saying again, just kind of acknowledging what you're saying here, and it's just fantastic. So you started off as a side hustle, you worked in the corporate world, you learned all these lessons, you then thought, right, okay, I'm going to do this full time now. You succeeded, you've won awards, you've done speaking, you've done all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And now, you know what I mean? It's like the story is magnificent. Now you're going to continue, you're going to keep doing things. What's the sort of like, at the time we've got left, I think we've got like maybe, how long we've got left?
1 minute.
1 minute. There we go. What's coming up for yourself, and how can people kind of get in touch with you?
Okay, so well, there's a lot coming up, so I'm going to keep it very vague and say watch this space.
Yeah.
But to sum up, in terms of if anyone's getting in touch with us, whether it's about getting any advice about mortgages, commercial bridging, development, anything like that at all, call us. We have a free initial consultation. No obligations at all.
Yeah.
And the number to call us on is 0800 799 9869.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, we're happy to have a chat and go from there.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, we will put all of Mo's details in the comments for this video, so please do look out for it, guys.
Yeah.
As I said, I kind of underestimated the time element here because
It's long, man.
it's amazing how an hour goes by. And as I said, these conversations are absolutely fantastic. And I think tonight you've been an amazing guest, Mo. Thank you so much for coming down today. You know, your story has clearly inspired and touched so many people. I just want to say, you know, I really wish you the best going forward, and wherever I can, you know, whatever we can do, I can do to support you. You know, I will definitely do that. So, guys, thanks for tuning in to the ZoShow on Radio Aapki Awaaz. As I said, if you didn't get your questions in, please do leave some comments. But otherwise, I'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.